This is 515, the Ultra Podcast. I'm your host, Larry Ryan. Today I want to start with a short clip about a different Ultraman before there was even an Ultraman race. That's Terry Fox.
I noticed a little bit of hardness in breathing near the end of the day at 18 miles. I was coughing and choking and had pain in my neck and my chest. And I did 3 more miles and I decided I had to go see the doctor. And it was discovered then that originally I had primary cancer in my knee 3.5 years ago. And that the cancer had spread. And now I've got cancer in my lungs. And we got to go home and try and do some more treatment. But all I can say is if there's any way I can get out there again and finish it, I will.
Terry became the youngest person ever to be awarded the Order of Canada, an award that recognizes outstanding achievement and dedication to the service of our country.
Terry Fox's courage in embarking on the Marathon of Hope has won him the admiration and affection of Canadians from coast to coast.
9 months later, he would pass away in the hospital.
I've said to people before that I'm going to do my very best to make it. I'm not going to give up, and that's true. But I might not make it, and if I don't make it, the Marathon of Hope better continue.
That's Terry Fox in 1980. All Canadians know this name, as do many around the world who participate in the Terry Fox runs that raise funds for cancer research. This year, the Terry Fox run is on September 18th. Please support it in your city if you have one. I know that Ultra alum Scott McDermott plays a role in organizing the Sylvan Lake run in Alberta. It is not only timely to discuss the Terry Fox run because of the run coming up in a few days, but also because today's 2 guests also end their conversations with me with a message that Terry shared and lived, and that is to never give up.
You're listening to 515, the Ultra Podcast, the show that invites you into the lives of people who make up the Ultra family. Here's your host for these conversations, Larry Ryan.
Thanks, MJ. Today, my Ohana guest is a 6-time 515 competitor and the most recent men's champion at Ultraman Canada, Christian Isakson. And my athlete in profile for the upcoming Ultra MX 515 this October is Delia Luján. My Ohana guest today works in his day job as a firefighter and a paramedic. He's a family man with a wife and 2 grown children. He has an artsy side and enjoys playing music and painting. He's one of the few people on the planet to have competed at Epic 5. When it comes to 515 races, he has competed at the Ultraman World Championship twice, Ultraman Florida twice, and recently completed his 2nd race at Ultraman Canada this summer, where he earned the title of 2022 Men's Champion. Joining me from his home in Portland, Oregon, welcome to the 515 podcast, Christian Isakson.
Hey man, how are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm doing well today. Thank you for joining me and taking the time to come and speak to our listeners.
Oh man, thanks so much. I'm excited to be here, and I've listened to a lot of the episodes you've done, and thanks for what you're doing too for the sport and just pushing it forward, man. It's really cool, and I'm stoked to be a part of it.
Excellent, thank you. Let's start off with that most recent race of yours in Penticton. We spoke briefly after the race at the finish line, and hopefully listeners have tuned into that and heard that already. But now you've had some time to reflect on the experience. What are you going to take away from that race as far as memories and things that you learned from it?
Man, that's a good question. A good one to start with too. I think the one thing that I did take away from the race is the finality of it. It was a race that I had set up, quite honestly, for it to be the bookend to my 5:15 career. I started in Ultraman Canada, and I wanted to finish there. And we can obviously get into the details of why later, but I know that the finality of it felt comfortable this go around, despite the difficulty of the run. And the other thing that I took away from it is how often I miscalculate things in my career, and then have to deal with the consequences, not of the lack of fitness, but the lack of calculation, if that makes sense. And just how unpredictable the race is, which is one of the reasons why I've loved racing it, and I love the sport as a whole. And the ultimate takeaway was just the fact that I love this sport.
Yeah. So when you say that the miscalculations, do you mean as far as how it fits into the rest of your life, or the race itself just miscalculating some of the strategies?
No, I think the race is not something. It's always fit into our lives, my life, my family life. It's something that I never felt like I had to be pushed to do. I was always pulled to be a part of it. So the fitting in the important part of life, I meant specifically the race itself, some of the miscalculations that I've done, some of the constant battles I've had over 20 years with that run, struggling with the run. And the thing that's always made me frustrated with the sport is obviously the linchpin that pulls me to it. So in regards to the miscalculations, fuel, pace, stuff like that, obvious stuff to athletes for sure. And then just the overall pain of that run. It's got to be somewhat like birth. You swear you're never gonna have. My wife's like, I'm never gonna have another kid. It was so painful. And then, once you have your baby and you're holding it, you're like, the pain's not too bad.
Yeah, that is definitely a tough run, and it's interesting to hear from someone with your experience, 6 5:15 races, that you can still mess up those things, because I know a lot of the people coming in as rookies, nutrition's usually one of the things that makes a DNF, but you have that experience, and you still are not calculating it perfectly. That's an interesting.
That's correct. Yep, it is interesting. It was really interesting for me specifically for this last race, because I had spent 12, 13 years finally thinking that I had it figured out. And for the first 2 days I did. I felt better than I've ever felt in my life, my gut. And then, a couple things just kind of came unglued, and I finished with duct tape and, bobby pins. So it never was a question for me, nor has it ever been a question for me in my mind. It's always been my stomach. And it's ironic that your stomach and your brain are two of the most interconnected organs in your body, because mine have fought for the last 20 years and my stomach usually loses. So
yeah, that's a common thing for these ultras. For sure.
Yep. Well, exactly.
Maybe we can back up a little bit into your life before ultras and Ironmans. What was going on in your life before this stuff happened, and what was it that brought you into the triathlon world, or who was it?
I was training for the fire department. I was in Southern California playing music and working as a maintenance guy on the PGA West golf course in La Quinta, California. And, I was in the military, ran quite a bit. And then fast forward to our transfer to Portland, Oregon. I, was staying fit to try to get hired as a firefighter and paramedic in school and music. And I decided to run a marathon to raise some money for a children's house in Romania that I had heard a person speak about. And that marathon turned into the Ultraman a month and a half ago. There's obviously a lot of rungs in that ladder, but that's kind of the cliff notes from training as at 25, 26 to racing Ultraman. A lot of steps in between that, but ultimately, that's where I was, and that's how I kind of ended up here.
Yeah. And when you were in the Army, you were working as a medic then as well, right?
That's correct. Yep. I was in Europe. I was young, 18. I joined the military when I was 18. I didn't really have a plan out of high school for many, many reasons. I wanted to go to art school. So ironically, I went to the military to get money to go to art school. So I know how backwards that is, but I wanted to go to art school and study art. And I'm a painter, and I did study art while I was in the military in Europe, in Amsterdam and in Germany. And I'm passionate about Van Gogh and Impressionists, and art history has always been a passion of mine, as well as painting. But yeah, I was a medic in the military, and then that's when I started playing music, and I got out just after 20 years old, and headed back to the States with my new wife. So
that sounds like the perfect opportunity for you to get to Europe to study art. Obviously, while you were deployed overseas, did you see any of the combat theaters of the United States, or were you just staying in the safe part of Europe?
No, I was in Baumholder, and I got out of the military just as the unit that I was in was getting deployed to Desert Storm. Mm-hmm. So I did have quite a few friends go there. Actually, one of my closest friends, and practically a brother, Brandon, who was one of the guys that crewed me for Ultraman Florida a couple of years ago. He's been one of my closest people in my life. He was stayed in the military and retired, and then became a school teacher and did various other things. So, but yeah, the bulk majority of my time was spent in Europe, and then I got out as quick as I could so I could get to school and keep moving forward.
Mm. And you didn't follow art as your full-time job. You've become a paramedic and a firefighter. I assume that's an extension of the medic work in the Army.
Yeah, it is kind of. I wanted to be. I got out of the military. I joined a band. I played music for a while, and that's where I thought I was going. Ended up in Southern California. Played and recorded in some pretty cool areas, and I thought that was the direction that I was going in. And then the firefighting thing is actually something I never wanted to do. My father was a firefighter, and I had a horrible relationship with my dad. And I didn't want to follow in his footsteps for sure. But I think, to be quite honest with you, I think God had other plans for me and drew me that way for reasons now that I only understand, being 20 years in as a firefighter and a paramedic. Mm. I'm very thankful for my job. The guys at work that I work with, Joe Lennox and Dorothy Lennox, they've crewed me at Ultraman twice in Hawaii, and they're our closest family friends. They are like family to us. So the things that the fire department has given me far and outweigh the way that I tried to avoid it in my early 20s, if that's okay to say.
Yeah. So you say you work as a paramedic and a firefighter. Now, are those two separate jobs, or is that you're a paramedic on the fire truck, or you are a paramedic one day and you're a firefighter the other day? And
no, I'm a firefighter. In the Portland metro area, most of and actually in the United States, there's a lot of the larger municipal, they're paramedic firefighters. They're the same. We have firefighters that aren't paramedics that are basics, firefighters that are intermediates, and then each one of the fire engines that service the Portland metro area here has to be an ALS unit. There has to be at least one medic. But I still fight fires and do the accidents, and at the same time run cardiac arrests and drug overdoses and all the stuff that's affiliated with as a paramedic. So a lot of guys in the fire department that are paramedics as well as firefighters. And most of the time here, if you want to get hired as a firefighter, which is the ultimate goal for the bulk majority of the people, they go to medic school first because it makes it a little bit more enticing to the employer that you're a medic in the first place.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. Now, I'm sure that on a daily basis, you probably deal with a lot of situations where people are having the worst day of their life, and that's probably really hard on you. So I won't ask about that, but maybe you can tell us about some of the more rewarding days in your job.
Rewarding is a tough. I mean, it's obviously awesome when you save a life. I know that sounds romantic, but there, we all get a thrill when something goes right. Most of the time, we're in situations where we're there to mitigate the disaster that's gone wrong. And you're right. I'm at a really busy station, which was one of the challenges leading up to this race. I had been moved to a station because I'm a paramedic, and they needed a paramedic, and we're up 24 hours working, and it's rewarding just going home, to be honest with you. That's the rewarding part of my job. Not only because I think I drive everybody nuts work, and their reward is not working with me for 48 hours till the next shift, but I have had moments where I have been a part of a crew that has saved a life, or that has extricated a child out of a vehicle that was in a severe accident, or fought a fire and was able to save property. I mean, those types of things really do happen, and it is what draw most of us to the job.
Yeah. And like we were talking a little bit earlier, and I suspect maybe these are slightly connected. With your faith and what the job that you do now, and when you do these races, you often attach a cause to them. Tell me a little bit about how your faith guides your life, and some of those causes that you've now held close to your heart, that you've worked with and raised some funds for, and the races that you did them with.
Right on. Yeah. Well, dude, number one, thank you for asking me about that. I appreciate that. My faith in Christ is the most important thing in my life, because without that, it seems that everything else is meaningless. And, it's ironic. The things in my life that are the most important to me, the fact that I'm married to my best friend, Rhonda, and we're 2 months away from celebrating 30 years of marriage, the fact that I run Ultraman. Yeah, thank you. And the fact that I run Ultraman, and the fact that I believe in Jesus Christ as my savior, regardless of who I'm talking to, those three topics in my life get the same exact answer all the time. It's, holy crap, you've been married for 30 years. Holy crap, why would you run 52 miles after you did 2 days? Holy crap, you believe that Jesus died for, I get that all the time with the three most important things. So I just want to make sure, to be honest with you, that I'm the kind of person that lives out those three things, that when other people meet me, they know that I'm not a phony. You can't fake being an Ultraman. You can't fake making 30 years of marriage, and I can't fake being a Christian. And when I meet people that do, those are the types of situations that really stress me and put me in awkward spots where I'm like, man, how do I manage this or mitigate this? But as a whole, the fact that I follow Christ, and that I think he wired me to do this, I want to make sure that I'm using that gift, so when I stand before him, I can say, hey, this is what I did with it, not to check a box or to be religious. And the other cool thing is, honestly, a t-shirt and a medal doesn't suffice a month and a half after my Ultraman. If that's all that I had back in Canada was then I would still be hungering, knowing that my identity doesn't lie in sport. It does in Christ first. Makes it a lot easier for me to continue to to go back to the sport, and B, to be okay with it when things don't go as well as planned.
Mm-hmm. So what are some of those charities that you've worked for with?
Oh yeah, sure. I've been all over the place, dude. Sorry. I worked with I still work with the Amina Project. My good friend Ian May, who runs the Amina Project in Kenya. I've gone to Kenya twice to dovetail my medical knowledge and my love of running with Kenyans, to bring attention to what he does in Kiangombe with a small school that he developed. So that's something that I will probably be involved in forever. I ran the last couple races because I grew a relationship with Accountable to You, which is an online accountability app, specifically because I'm a dad and I was concerned with my son and the fact that the iPhone is in everybody's pocket and assaults us with images and ideas that make us feel that we're less than we should be. So the accountability for me is a big thing. Having my wife and my children know where I'm at on my phone in action is just as important to me as saying where I'm at. So the accountability to you aspect of the last couple of years has been the big push for me. I've worked with Accountability to You specifically as their partner to kind of be an advocate. And without fail, dude, the places that I speak at, the schools, the youth groups, the churches, the high schools, I have specifically teenage guys come up and ask me, hey, I can't get out of this loop that I'm on, looking at things on the phone that I shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what it is taking off the veil of secrecy and making accountability seem like it's more of a good thing versus a punitive thing, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. I understand what you're saying there. Yeah.
Yep. I know you do.
And did you also involve your family in some of these trips to Africa?
Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. My wife went with me after the first time I went to Kenya. And then my son came with me the second time, my boy Ian. And he actually stayed there for 30 days in the jungles with my closest friend who was living there. And then the last time I went solo to help a friend, actually Ted Whiteman, the guy that kayaked for me in Canada, recently moved back from Kenya. So he came up with me. He was a firefighter with me. We've been each other's accountability partners for over 20 years. And I was able to go to Kenya and help him move back. I ran with some of the Kenyans that I've been worshiping for the past 25 years because I love Eliud Kipchoge and a lot of the Kenyan runners. So that was another dream come true for me. But yeah, my family has always been highly involved in not only the things that I find passionate, but sport itself. It's definitely been a team aspect here in my home for years.
And so your children, what kind of sports are they playing?
Well, my son is a musician. He's a decent athlete. He's not, I mean, he runs and jogs and tries to stay fit, but he's not and my daughter, Evelyn, who's 28, my boy is 21. Neither one of them are really super highly involved in sport. You know, I basically drove them nuts for their whole life. I dragged them along to everything that I did. So they had to be involved in Ultraman, but, and yeah, and actually, I didn't know if I told you this when we were up in Canada, but my son had driven up 8 hours to surprise me on the run of Ultraman, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, we did talk about that in that post interview. That's great that he was able to do that for you.
Yeah, it was really
close
cool
enough. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, let's get back to your ultras. Let's kind of go through the resume a little bit. While you can now say that you're an Ultraman champion, it definitely took some bumps along the way for you learning on how to become that champion. And you've even said you still got bumps on this race that you just finished. Your first Ultraman Canada in 2013, you finished fourth there, but you were in a super strong field that year that included local Dave Matheson, who set and holds the record for that race, John Bergen, who won the race a few years earlier, and Craig Percival, who set and holds the 2-day bike record at that same race. So you came fourth to those three guys. That was a pretty strong field. What are your memories of that first Ultraman race and racing with those guys?
Well, I know I lost by 6 seconds, which is the closest narrow margin that I've ever. I came in fourth by 6 to Craig, which was fine with me because Craig and I really grew close before he passed away. He and I hit it off the second we had met. It was kind of neat because he asked me if all American athletes have 50 Ironman stickers on the back of their car. He asked me, he's like, "Hey, do you have Ironman stickers on the back of the car?" I was like, "Dude, no, I do not." But that first Ultraman was a result of me, trying to make it to Kona in the Ironman ranks and just falling short for years. And I was invited to do that Epic 5 and I did well there. And my wife's like, "Man, maybe you should go longer. Maybe this is your gig." So just throwing my hat in the ring that first year, I had no idea of what I was expecting. I knew the athletes were strong, but yeah, that was a 3-day battle. And Inaki de la Parra was also there, who battled back and forth with me. Yeah. So there was like 4 or 5 of us that basically hung around each other all day. And that's what I really took away from that race. I remember talking to Dave Matheson after and asking like, "Dude, what do I got to do for this race? How do I, so the takeaway was the people that I met for sure. And Steve King, I met Steve King, which was awesome. But that first race was just basically a wake-up call for me for like, "Hey, man, this is what you were built to do."
Do you remember what Dave Matheson told you?
Yeah, I asked him why he did so well in the swim, and he gave me some pointers about sighting and spotting. I respected the way Dave ran that race and finished that race because he seemed like a really, from what I gathered in the little time that I talked to him, he seemed like a really down-to-earth guy. And I'm always drawn to that because I think those are the people that I learned from the best. And Dave, he talked to me about pacing and the obvious, but that swim was one of the things that I could feel that I needed to really dial in because I'm just not naturally a good swimmer. I have to fight to really be able to swim.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Following that, you go to your first Worlds. You finally make your Kona trip. But that was also...
Yeah, and I really upset my wife really quick. I upset my wife that morning because I had gotten up and went to to call Vuelta Wheels. Ron Blockner and Vuelta Wheels have sponsored me and been supportive of me for years. And I told him I did this and did that. And he and I started talking about Worlds, and I came back in and I was like, babe, we're doing Worlds this year. And she's like, dude, you're not even a day past the most painful thing I've ever watched. She's like, what do you mean you're doing Worlds? And I did. I jumped the gun and went to Worlds that year, probably a year too soon, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And that ended up being obviously a less than perfect race for you from hearing about your race reports on that one. Again, the run became an issue for you. Tell us about what happened there.
Yeah, I was racing against Ribeiro and Kregar. And Ribeiro was somebody that I've always, he's won that 6 times, and Hillary Biscay was there, which was kind of cool to be able to, I actually ran with her. It was the run that really, on that run in Hawaii, is like nothing else, dude. It's just like nothing else. And I really had a difficult time finishing. Vomited uncontrollably and just basically limped in on fumes. And that was the only time I'm like, man, maybe this isn't going to be what I thought it was going to be for me. My wife had a hard time seeing me in so much pain. I never experienced running on a tarmac, 110 degrees. You know what I mean, dude? I'm in Portland where, we basically live in a petri dish. So yeah, but it was awesome to be there with Steve King and all those great athletes and Kona. It was a really neat experience running with Hillary Biscay and Joaquin Dombeck. And it was just a magical moment for me, despite how difficult that run was. That run, I just, and I remember what I took away from that race is at the end of the day 3, Ribeiro came up to me and said, if you ride that bike race like you rode today, you'll be a champion someday. Mm-hmm. And Miro Kregar said the same thing to me, because he and I battled on the backside of that island for about an hour and a half. And they both told me, if you ride that race, that's the first time that I realized that Ultraman's really just a long run after a stage in the tour. So I had my work cut out for me for the following 4.
Yeah. And that's some great advice from some really great people. And if they have that confidence in you, that's obviously going to give you more confidence to come back to it again. Absolutely. Yeah. And you did go back. You went to Florida next in 2015, where you managed to finish second in a total time there of 24:45:45. And that, again, catapulted you back to the Worlds. And you were having a great first day at the Worlds that year, but you ended up at the edge of a 200-foot cliff after a bike crash. And I did. And you actually thought that your injuries might end up being fatal. Can you tell us that story? Yeah, the Florida race, I was racing Billy Edwards, and I thought I had a chance to win that race, but I went off course on day 1. I was about 30 minutes ahead of him in the swim. I knew he was a great cyclist. I got lost because I knew if he saw me on the roads, he'd catch me. I just wanted to stay out of sight. So I knew I'd see him back in Kona, which I was excited to honestly race that guy again. And then I had a really good swim, and I just moved into 3rd place, and I popped a flat going about 35, 40 miles an hour, and hit the road pretty hard, skipped along, and ended up seriously at the barricades overlooking a cliff with a semi-truck flying by me. Ian ran up to me, my son. That's when Joe and Dorothy were there, and Rhonda. And actually I had a New York filmographer was there that got some pretty good footage. And I told my son, grab the duct tape, and I was just going to tape my arm to my stomach and finish the ride and try to reassess. And Joe, who's also a paramedic, came and pushed on my clavicle and said, dude, you can't go on. I had no idea how bad my accident was until about 8 hours after that at the hospital in Kona. I had 7 broken ribs, a broken clavicle, and then a hemopneumothorax. And I was in the hospital there for 2 days, extremely painful. I was jacked up on Toradol and every drug you could imagine, to the point where my wife and I got in an argument, and I ran out on the road with Inaki for 2 or 3 miles to try to encourage him to finish the race. And my wife's like,
dude, what are you doing? There was a couple of people there that's like, Christian should not be on his feet, but I was so hopped up on narcotics, and I felt fine, that I wanted to be part of the awards banquet and see Steve King and see everybody. And then that night, I realized how bad I was. I had to go back to the hospital, and it was not good. I just, my thick-headedness was not my advocate there. It was more my adversary. I was just so passionate to see everybody finish. But long story short, they put me on a plane 4 days later, way too soon. And on the plane, my lung collapsed, filled up with blood. And when I landed, I went got a chest tube and straight to the ICU. So.
And that's just the pressure of the flight that did that to you?
And it's funny. Yeah, it's funny there, because when I went and talked to the PA in Kona, I said, look, I'm not trying to bird dog you, tell you to do your job. I said, I'm a paramedic. I know kind of the physiology of how this works. I have a, hemopneumothorax. I've got blood in my lung. I've got broken ribs. I got clavicle, broken clavicle. And she's like, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. And we had taken off. And within 2 hours, I had a flight stewardess ask me if I needed oxygen. And I was squeezing Rhonda's hand and just trying to stay calm. But I'm like, I think this might be it. I was really, really, I just felt that weird. Yeah. I told Rhonda, the only thing that's missing is me having to run 52 miles, because I felt like crap whenever I ran too. So, and then we landed and I felt okay. And then when we got home about an hour after we landed, and I collapsed on the floor of the living room and was basically dragged to the car and ran to the emergency room. And that's when my battle began for rehab.
Now, this was the same year that Scott McDermott also crashed and nearly died on that course, right? And
Scott McDermott had a really, really, really nasty wreck too. Yeah.
Yeah. He's been on the podcast back in season 1. He was talking about his documentary that he filmed.
I listened to that. Yep.
Yeah. Living the Warrior Code is the name. You're welcome, Scott. So do you and Scott,
That's awesome.
Do you and Scott have any bond over this world championship crashing race?
Yeah, Scott's always been, he and I clicked pretty well too when we first talked, and he's always stayed in contact with me. Actually, he was one of the first few people that I saw that, said something about my last race. But you have that invisible bond, I guess. You know what I mean? All Ultraman athletes do, but when you refine the pool down to, people that get severely injured, then you automatically have that invisible attachment. But his accident was horrendous. I mean, I have a tendency to make mine out to be more than it was. And it was dangerous and it was scary, but man, I was praying my heart out for that guy. And what he's done is nothing short of amazing. I mean, that dude lives and breathes Ultraman. He is the Ultraman in my book for sure.
And of course, he's gone back and raced the World Championships since the crash. Yep. You said that Ultraman Canada was going to be the bookend of your race and career in Ultraman. So does that mean you have no desire to go back and do that race again?
I think desire is not the same thing as awareness. And my wife told me, I remember in the hospital room in the ICU, Rhonda, my wife, was gripping my hand. She's like, babe, this just isn't worth free shoes from Adidas and watches. It's not. I was not that she wasn't supportive of but it was so terribly hard on my wife. She was the one sleeping next to me on the couch, making sure I wasn't drowning in my own flu. I mean, my wife, that was a really, really tough time for her. And she was also the first one that say, okay, you got to get back and finish this, because I know you and you're not going to be, but no, this was my last Ultraman, not only because I know it's what I'm supposed to do. And my wife's ready too. She's like, we're ready. We need to move on. You have nothing left. And it's one of those things that is okay for me to say, but I still have to make sure that I feel it. Because that's the thing I tell athletes that I coach is you can say or dream or visualize, but once you feel it, you know that you finally climbed the next step. Both in racing and in training and in preparation, but in finishing. And I want to finish well, dude. I don't want to be that dude. I want to be very careful, but it's time for me to step aside from that and kind of like look at some of the other ventures in sport that I've been kind of neglecting for the last 9 years chasing this.
Right. So what sorts of things are you looking at then?
I'm doing some cool stuff. Next week, I'm going to run a 30-hour. For 30 hours straight, I'm going to run a mile an hour for 30 hours. And then in between each mile, I'm going to do all of the things in my house that I neglected for the last year. I'm going to be recovering the garage floor, repainting one side of the house. I'm going to stain the upstairs walls that I've been remodeling for a while, but I'm going to take 30 hours and do things that I've missed. And so run a mile, I'll have about 52 minutes to come back. And I'm going to do that for 30 hours. And then in 2 weeks, I'm going to run 49 miles because it's my 49-year birthday. So that's just kind of a fun thing. And then next year, I want to break 3 hours in a straight marathon. I'd like to run a 2:55. I went and talked to Chris. My best is, I think I ran a 3:10 in Seattle, but I wasn't really trained. I was kind of like, and that was a while ago. I went and talked to Chris Beaudreaux, who has been a huge part of my athletic career, and talked to him. I'm like, do you think I could do this, dude? He's like, yeah, I think you could do it. So I'm going to give that a shot. So I'm throwing it out there for people to keep me accountable.
Oh, nice. And do you have a target race for that?
I don't yet. I really have been taking the last couple of weeks to let some injuries heal. Just in time for me to stay up for 30 hours and do some stupid feat. But no, not yet. When I do, dude, I'll let you know though. I'll give you a heads up.
Nice. Okay. Now, you're talking about some coaches and stuff, but you also have worked with Chuck Kemney. Is that right?
Yeah, he is. He was the guy that that I met the first time I went in Florida, and he came up to me one day and honestly said, dude, can I help you? Can I help you? Like, can I give you a hand with your nutrition? Can I give you a hand with things? And Chuck was kind enough to take me on for 3-4 years. And if it wasn't for Chuck, I wouldn't be here. He was in more ways than being a coach, a father, a husband. He and I just clicked, and I owe him so much. I'm so grateful for his friendship, for sure.
Let's end off with this then. Now that you're a champion and you've raced with all these great people throughout your various Ultraman races and learned from them, and you've taken in so many different things. Can you share with the listener, some of the things that you have learned from those people that have made you successful in racing ultras?
Man, this might be a little long-winded, but if
it's the last question, go ahead.
Okay, I've had an opportunity to run, and everybody put your hard hats on because I'm going to drop some names here, yo. I've met some really cool people along the way. Today I was thinking about my interview with you, and I was like, man, I've talked with Chris Leigh about my injury because he was the one that was on the TV that messed up his intestines on that Ironman, and I've been able to become friends with Chris Lieto and hang out with Craig Alexander and Spencer Smith from England and Michael Lovato and all these great athletes that are so much the people that I put on a pedestal, and they all have the same thing in common, is there's just a different look to them when they make eye contact with you and tell you how much they love the sport. Ian Adamson, the Eco Challenge champion from the mid-'80s, ran with me on my marathon in Honolulu during the Epic 5, and he told me something that I will never forget. He said, don't ever quit. Ever. One time, don't you ever quit. Never, ever quit. If you do once, it becomes easier the second time and the third time. And of all the races I've done, the Ironman, I've podiumed in Ironman. I've never quit. And the other interesting thing, and this is the point that I'm getting to, and I've discussed this with some of those names that I just mentioned, is the last time I was in Kenya, I spoke to a small group of children with, when you're in Kenya as a Mzungu, which is a white guy, not only do you have some money in the pocket, so to speak, with people want to listening to you because I'm an athlete, but I'm there to help them. And there's a real weird connection that I have with the Kenyan people, A, because I love them, and B, because I think they're a fascinating, amazing representation of how creative God is. And that's a whole nother topic to we could discuss sometime maybe. But this woman asked me why I never win. She asked me, why do you never win? Why do you never come in first place? Because in Kenya, when you're an athlete, you win. Like the Kenyan runner is the greatest athlete on the planet. And it really threw me for a loop. I didn't have an answer for it. And that stuck with me for years. And on this run in Canada at mile 38, I got the answer to that. And that's the reason why I think it's so easy for me to walk away from this sport. And I had mentioned this at the awards banquet. I think the reason why I always come in second and third, Larry, is because I am second and third to everything that is the most important to me, to my wife, to my children, to my job, to my friends, to my God. My God, I feel like God's like, hey man, this isn't about you, dude. This is about me and how I wired you and the glory that it brings me. And you're bigger than this, and your identity is not locked in this. I'm Christ. I made you to do this, and now it's time to step aside and not become the monster that you have been running from for years. And I know that again is an artsy way to say it, but I just have so much peace in my heart knowing that I did what I did, and those seconds and thirds and fourths mean so much more to me than I can possibly convey. And that's not to say, dude, that I didn't want to win, because I freaking wanted to win. I thought, and this last go around, I've never been in first place at the end of day one and be interviewed at the finish line. I've never been in first place at the end of day two. I've never started day three in first place with a 45-minute lead. But halfway through that run, I felt like God was like, all right, I gave you those first 2 days. I'm taking this back, bro. You'll be fine. And that's what I want to tell everybody is, man, dude, it's okay. It's okay. It's good.
Yeah. Well, Christian, I really appreciate you giving me the time to come and share your stories with us and share your advice. It's great that you did finally get to the top of the podium for the men's race there. It's great that you're able to bookend your career in Canada, and I really have enjoyed speaking with you today and in Penticton previously. So keep in touch and let us know what you're doing, and hopefully you get all of your chores done in your 30-hour challenge.
Dude, thank you. You are another one. I told Ron, I was like, man, just the fact that I was able to have that coffee cup and get that from you, those little reasons are the reasons why I do it, man. It meant a million. It really meant a lot to me. I'm not trying to maximize it. It was just one of those things where I'm like, holy crap. So thank you so much. And my friends in Penticton, Mike Owen and his family let me in their house, and Steve, I've met so many people along the way, and I appreciate you and your desire, like I said, to bring light to a sport where there's so many kind of cool people in it. So
yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to do. Yeah. Well, thank you.
I know it. Thank you so much, dude. Larry, thank you so much, man.
All right. If you haven't been following my Facebook page, well, first of all, why not? Get on that, please. But you may have missed the news that Steve Brown has officially committed to organizing a 355 race next year in July here in Canada. Spots will be limited for this inaugural event, so if you want to know when the registration opens, be sure to register your interest at the race website, ultra355.com/Canada. It is part of the 355 series, and the Cozumel version of the race starts today. Check out their Instagram for updates. Next up is my athlete in profile for the sister race, Ultra MX 515. Today's athlete in profile will be competing in the upcoming Ultra MX 515 in October. She has quickly made her way through the triathlon distances from sprint to 515 in just a couple of years. She's a certified nutritionist and health coach with a master's degree in sports nutrition. She has a weekly nutrition spot on TV and in a nutrition magazine. She has already completed the Cozumel Ultra 355 and the Ultra MX 515, but she's coming back again. Today's guest is from Monterrey, Mexico. Welcome to the 515 podcast, Delia Luján.
Hi, Larry. How are you? I'm very excited to be here with you guys and excited to share everything with you.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Thank you very much. And I'm excited to have you on as one of our athletes in profile for this race down in Mexico. We were actually supposed to meet a few weeks ago in Penticton when you were going to be racing Ultraman in Penticton with your fellow Mexicans up there, Juan Pablo and Ramiro. What happened that you weren't able to come up to and see us in Canada?
Well, that was a tough lesson that I learned. I didn't get the permit to enter your country. And I received the email just a day before the race. So my plane was going out to Canada on Sunday, the 18th. And I received the message, saying that my visa was still pending and that it was under review. And meanwhile, I couldn't travel over to Canada, and I couldn't believe it, because everyone had their permits and everything. And I was so prepared, even though, I have here, well, I don't know if they are going to see us, but even my nails are with your flag and the Mexican flag and the Canadian flag, because I was so ready to be there with you guys. But, these things happen. And
had you already sent your bike along as well to Canada?
Yeah, I sent my bike. My crew was there. Everyone was there waiting for me. And I just didn't give up. I did learn something. I learned that never to give up, and I did everything I could. I sent some emails to the Canadian embassy, to the government, with some friends that I have here in government. And so I did everything I could.
Mm-hmm.
And as I told you, even my crew was there, my bike was there, everything, my helmet, everything was there, And physically, well, I was here in Mexico, in Zacatecas, not Monterrey, here in Zacatecas, but my mind was there. Everything was there in Canada. And so I don't know, maybe it wasn't my year. Maybe next year I'll do a better time or whatever.
Yeah. And
yeah.
I mean, your misfortune became Michelle's fortune. She was there to crew, and then she just decided to hop on that bike and take on the race herself. Now, not having been trained for it, she didn't actually finish the entire race, but good on her as well to take that spot and to go out and just challenge the race. So what did you hear from her?
Well, I only heard that she was there in the race and that she was trying to make it. And I was so happy for her. I said, well, use my bike, do something, whatever, it's there. And so you might as well use it and see the beautiful places there. I think she already been there and that Ultraman before with her dad. Mm-hmm. And we talked about it, and it was a good experience to her. And she said, well, maybe I'll do it. And I said, well, not maybe, just do it, just and see what happens. And well, as you said, she wasn't prepared for that, but she did her best. Mm-hmm. And she's an amazing girl. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's becoming one of my friends here at the Ultra family. Mm-hmm. And I know she has a great spirit, and I'm really happy that she did it. What she had to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we're talking about Michelle Echeverria, and she has a pretty established career in ultra sport as well with Epic Deca and previously doing Ultraman, as you said, with her dad. So congratulations to her for just jumping on the bike at the last second and taking advantage of that. Maybe
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about how you became involved in triathlon. Was there a certain person who introduced you to the sport?
For sure. It was a friend. I was doing before the triathlon, I was running marathons. And at the same time, I started to make my career, my nutritionist career. And she invited me to, I wanted to do a marathon per year while I was studying. And I only ran two. And then everything went like very tough for me because I had my family, my four kids. I had the training and everything, and I just couldn't keep up with everything. So I said, no, I'm not gonna run any marathon anymore. And I was feeling frustrated. And she said, oh, you know what? I have I have an idea that you can make, you're going to like this sport. And I said, what? And she said, well, this is triathlon. And I was, no, you're totally crazy. If I can't, with the running sessions, I'm not going to be able to do three disciplines at a time. And she said, well, they are very short distances and you're going to like it. And I said, I don't even know how to ride. I don't know how to swim properly. And I just run. And well, she convinced me. And I found out that triathlon was very attractive to me and it got the best of me. I started to do that like sprints.
Mm-hmm.
And because I couldn't swim very well. Actually, that is what I have to work a lot. Swimming, I've improved a lot, but still, I think that I have to be better on that.
Mm-hmm.
During that time, I met Van Sanchez, that he's my coach right now, and I found him at the races, and then he said, well, you know what, I won one of the races, and he said, you're very strong, you can do it, you can go to the next level. And I went, what next level? And he said, well, you can do an Olympic. And I was, no way, I'm not gonna do that. And he said, yeah, you can do it, you're very strong, and you have the abilities, and you just have to work more and believe in yourself. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna be able to do that. So he was a guy, he's a key during this process, a very valuable key and person to me, because he believed in me more than myself. And he started to see what I didn't see in me. He started to say, well, you can do this. And as I started to ride my bike and to swim and to run even better, there was like a little bit of like a sweet poison, let's say, or I don't know how to say it, because this is something that it's getting into your body, your blood, your everything. It's when he told me, oh, you know what, you're ready to do the 70.3, and I was like, no way. And he was, yes, you can do that, I know you can do it. So I did that, and as soon as I crossed the finish line, I thought, I'm ready for the full Ironman. So I didn't have to ask him or to talk to him to believe and to say that to myself that I was ready for the full Ironman. And so I just did it. Next year, I did the full Ironman in 2018. And that feeling was wow. Uh, it was a blast.
Mm.
It was, you know, I don't know. It just took over my everything, my life, my everything, and I thought, well, I want to do this for the rest of my life.
And you finished your first 5:15 race during the pandemic in 2020. What was it
Yes.
like for you to train during that time and prepare during the pandemic to do the race? Because the Mexico races went on during the pandemic when other races were stopped.
Yeah, so I started to swim. I swim at the club, and they only give me like 1 hour to swim at the club. So I have to make some arrangements, and it was tough. It was difficult because nobody had like this exclusive permit to swim more than 1 hour. So I had to make a letter and everything. So telling them that I was going to represent my country and my state and everything, because this was an amazing race. And well, I didn't get the 2 hour permit, but I found out a lot of good people there that they used to sign up for an hour, and they will give me the hour.
Oh,
Yeah, they will let me swim at their hours. So I was very blessed to see that a lot of people started to help me out.
yeah. And I understand when you were starting to look at the other people in the race, you were, comparing what you've done to what they've done, and you felt a little insecure about your race resume compared to them. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh yes, I was. That was a scary time because when I saw what the other girls were doing, and I was, oh my God, there's this girl that she went to the Olympics, and she won this and that prize, and first place in this and second place in that. And I was, I was amazed and I was shocked. And there was another girl that she went to um, Panamericanos,
Mm-hmm.
and that's an important race also here. And it was like, and there was this other girl that is winning this, that has won this and those prizes and these places, and had traveled a lot and won international races. And it was like, oh my God. And I'm just me, Delia, with with 4 kids. No, I'm not a pro athlete. I'm just I'm just, a nutritionist here, a mother of 4, doing this madness, trying to do this. So I might
Mm-hmm.
as well quit. So I'm mad. I'm crazy. I'm not gonna do this. And then I thought, well, why not? Why not? I'll become. I know I'm a mother. I'm a professionist. I don't have the same curriculum as they have, but
Mm-hmm.
this is a big challenge for me, and
Yeah.
this is what I'm going to. This is what I want, and I'm gonna do that. And yes, I can do this. I'm strong. I'm disciplined. I have a lot of discipline, and I know I can do this. I know that I don't have these titles and this or that, but I believe in myself. And what I like about myself is that I'm very passionate about what I everything I do, and I always visualize what I want
Mm-hmm.
every day. And I said, well, why not? Why being afraid?
Right.
If that frightens me, that's what I have to do.
Yeah. And
And
I think
just,
so many people feel that way that are probably at the Ironman stage that they see some of these racers that do the 5:15 distance and they kind of feel like they're not worthy to compete at that level or with those people. But so many of the people that come out and do these 5:15 races aren't there to win. They're there to challenge. They're there to do the distance. And I really feel like when those people come to the race and succeed, that's what makes these races really exciting. It's fun to watch the people race at the front of the pack as well, but it's the stories of those regular everyday people with their 4 kids that have to squeeze in their training, that make these races so much fun. And sometimes when I ask people to do athlete profiles like you're doing now, they'll say, well, I don't feel like I'm worthy of it. I don't really have a story to tell or things like that. But the whole purpose behind these is that everybody who goes to these does have some kind of great story to tell. And if we can just have you share your stories and learn more about you, so that when you go to the race and meet all these people, they get to know you a little bit more by listening to this podcast. And then when you meet, you can have these connections that you can talk about, because everybody is connected once they get there. So now what I'd like to do is go into our transition round questions. These are quick questions that, just give like a really quick answer to. We do it for just all the questions got to take up 2 minutes. So it's 2 minutes in transition.
Sure.
So just give me a quick answer. All right.
Sure.
All right. What is a bucket list event or something on your current radar that you really want to do that's not the MX 550?
Well, it's a very big dream. I want to conquer the Everest. I want to do that. Yeah, I was planning to do that next year, or prepare this part of the year and next year, but I want to do that. I want to, with all my heart, since a long time ago, I have that in my heart that I want to do that. I want to conquer the Everest.
Excellent. Now, we're going to talk about this a little bit more when we get to the personal part of your life, but you're a nutritionist. So what is your preferred fuel for doing distance events?
Fats. Yeah, like avocado fats, like nuts, almonds, and that, because fats are the micronutrient that gives you all the way with energy. If we were talking about a small event, a small running, I will tell you that carbs for sure. But for a big event, ultra distances, those are the fats. Yeah.
And what about
coconut oil?
And what about post-race? What's your favorite food to celebrate with?
And a very simple, I don't eat red meat, so that will be pasta and salmon. Oh, I love salmon. Yeah, for the omega-3.
Previously, you talked about how this open water swimming was very scary for you. You've overcome that with the help of your friend. What scares you now?
Heels, I think. Yeah. When I saw the high heels there on the bicycle, there was a video that Ben was taking, and I saw the climbers, and I was like, oh my God, I'm really glad I didn't get the permit. I'm just kidding.
Okay, so now we'll try and get more into your personal life outside of your sports and stuff. And obviously a big part of that is what you do for a living. And we've talked about this a little bit already. You're a nutritionist and you hold your master's degree in sports nutrition. You've also written a book in the English language. It's titled Nurturing with Love: How to Generate Healthy Habits and Healthy and Happy Relationships with Food. Now, looking through that, I saw that there was a number of different stages for children that you address differently, and you even explain how to buy food and read the labels. You have recipes for different times of year. How has writing that book, affected your own raising of your children and their habits, and do they follow a pretty good diet?
Yeah, for sure. They are. That's why I made that book. I wrote that book thinking about them, because, and also thinking about other families as well. My kids, well, they are not kids anymore.
Maybe you can just introduce your children by name and their age, so that the listeners will know as well.
Okay. Alex, my oldest son, Alex, he's 25 years old. So yeah, he's a grown up right now. And Juan Antonio, he is 24 years old, and he just got 24. One in June and the other one in July. And Fernando, he is 21 years old. And Germán is the youngest one. He is 18. He just turned 18 years old. So they are grown-ups right now. But I wrote that book. I wrote that book thinking about them, and during the process, I thought how food affected my children when they were growing, and while I was doing also my internship.
Internship.
Can I say it like
yeah.
that? Yeah. At a hospital, I found out that they were a lot of illness in children, a lot of diabetes, a lot of stuff, and another illness that were affecting children, and it all went. It all went back to nutrition. The causes of diabetes or causes about a lot of illnesses they were having, cancer and lung problems and anxiety, depression, and lots of illnesses were related to bad habits. So that's why I started to think about it and to make, like this sessions, and went to schools and give them like these meetings, these conferences about the importance of food. And I thought that there was something missing, not only just to talk to them and show them how to do that, but I thought that a book that they will have something to grab and to look, because probably words, they forget words, but if they have a book, they can go back and read it again and read it and read it. And that's why that the idea of writing a book got into my mind, and I started to do it. And as an Ultraman, I was afraid at the beginning of doing that. And I was, well, who am I to write a book, and to tell these things and to teach people? But I thought I had a good background with my kids and with myself, because I also talk about a little bit, not a lot, but I talk about eating disorders, that it's very frequent in children. Yeah. So I had it before when I was a teenager. I had a problem with eating disorders. So I thought that there was a good opportunity to let the kids and let the family know that even in pandemic, and more in pandemic, that this was a great opportunity for families to cook and to overthink the way they were feeding their children, their families.
Yeah. And you do some other work in magazines writing about this stuff, and I understand you're also on the television with a regular spot with the TV. Tell us a little bit about those opportunities that you have to reach people.
Yes, I go every Monday. I have a spot in TV, and I talk about different topics. All of them are nutrition topics, but sometimes I will talk, it depends upon the season. Probably this July, I will talk about nutrition during vacations and what to expect if you go out, and if you are traveling to a beach, if you are traveling to a city or center or another country, what tips of how you can take care of your health, and some recipes that I share. And I'm going to start writing again a book, probably sports nutrition book, and doing something different. and training for the Everest.
And training for Everest. That's got to be a
Yes.
lot of training. Now you're
Yeah.
also starting to dabble in the idea of training some other people for triathlon as well. So kind of putting it all together with the nutrition, and you do some kind of life coaching as well and things like that. So
Yes.
I guess you're starting to build all of that side together as well. Is there a place where people can reach out to you? Do you have a website? Do you have socials that they can reach out to you for if they want to get some of your information?
Sure, for sure. My social media is Delia, D as in day, ELIA LUJAN, Delia Luján. Nutrición, it's Delia Luján Nutrición. It's like a long word. And you can find me there. I'm building a page. It's delialuján.com, but it's still in progress.
Now, I understand that when you first came to doing sport, you came to it for a particular reason, that it was a way for you to deal with some of the other things that was going on in your life. Like many people do, they reach out, and maybe this was back when you were doing your marathons more than triathlon, but it was a way for you to deal with other things going on. Can you tell us a little bit about what that was?
I started to exercise because when we have another person, like sharing dreams and everything, a marriage, and sometimes we want to make things like perfect and to be, the perfect couple and the perfect family and that, but it's also true that we have problems. So I was struggling with my marriage, and I found out that a way of having this opportunity to be a better self was through this discipline, through triathlon. And so I started to do that, and I started to feel alive in triathlon, and not to give up to my marriage, and not to give up to my kids, and not to give up. And, my mind was getting better every time I exercise. And what I love about exercise and sports, it's that it gives you the opportunity to go on with your life, not to quit, because it's the most easiest thing to do is to quit and say, well, I'm done here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going my way, and I don't care what you're going to do. But what exercise has taught me is that when you are in a certain kilometer, and if you are, for example, in an Ultraman, and you're in the middle of the Ultraman, and you start thinking, oh my God, I'm only half the way, and this is what I have to do, and I have to keep running and keep cycling and doing this, then you're going to feel overwhelmed, you're going to feel heavy, and you're going to feel very tired. But if you do it the other way and look at the other way and say, oh my God, I have done half of the way, and I'm very strong. So that is the perspective that you choose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I thought I saw that, and I understood and felt it, that exercise was a good opportunity to grow in family, to grow in marriage, to be a good example to my kids, to my husband. And I don't know, things are not always like as we want. Yeah, when you meet someone and you fall in love and everything, it's very romantic, and you see everything in good colors and everything, and you even smell the air, and it's very sweet and very but then with time things happen, And it's the same. And it's the same in a race. You start to buy your tennis shoes, you choose your t-shirt, you choose whatever you want, your bike, everything, and you are so in love with the race that you don't see anything else. But and then the race starts, and then you said, oh my God, what am I doing here? I'm crazy for doing this. Or, I want to quit. That is the same. And that's what exercise has given me to strengthen my marriage, to be a good example for my kids, and to be a better person. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Delia, I'd like to thank you very much for coming on the podcast and sharing your story as our athlete in profile for the Ultra MX 515 that's coming up. I was very disappointed that I did not get to meet you in person in Penticton this year, but hopefully in the near future we will cross paths through the connections that we all have.
Yes, for sure. I'll be there. I'll do my best to try to get this, to open that file and send the documents they are asking me, and hope to see you next year.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Delia.
No, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here.
Hey, if you liked what you heard today, please tell a friend and be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We'd appreciate it if you'd rate and review the show while you're there. Drop the names of the people you think we should interview, and we'll get in touch with them and make that happen. Thank you for listening to 515, the Ultra Podcast, a production of 55 Enterprises. Now really, go subscribe now before you forget.